Hey, Crystal Maiden here for the third game in the Sonic Advance series. This game is pretty unique, I think. To be honest, it's the most unique game in the Advance series. It's nothing like the previous games. That's something that I kind of like with the Advance series and kind of dislike, is that each game has its own identity. Advance 1 was an attempt at a classic Sonic game. Well, I guess that really wasn't its own identity, but... And Sonic Advance 2 was basically, as people like to say, hold right to win. It was the perfect foreshadowing to Sonic Rush gameplay and stuff. And Sonic Advance 3 is its own thing. It's basically Sonic and Tails mode up to 11, and in a good way. The theme of the menus is actually a remix of the Chow Race theme from Sonic Adventure 2. I don't know whether to think of that as lazy or... I mean, it is a nice sounding remix. It's amazing how much it suits a menu. Oh yeah, this game has a multiplayer mode for its story campaign. You might think that's a little weird. This game harkens back to Knuckles Chaotix, where you have a partner with you at all times. Thankfully, they don't bring back the tether ring mechanic that is part of why the game was kind of infamous. I'm not showing the title screen again. What's happened here is this actually happens after you start up a new file. For some reason they decide to show you the title screen intro cutscene again. And the intro cutscene was kind of hard to figure out what was happening in it. Apparently, the plot of this game is that Eggman shattered the planet into pieces. That's supposed to be the explanation for why Sonic's friends were separated from each other, and he has to unlock them. Not only would the planet shattering obviously cause an apocalypse, but it creates a massive plot hole later because that happening in unleashed Dark Gaia. But that doesn't happen in this game. In Advance 2, you had to unlock them because you're kidnapped, and honestly, I would prefer that over that bullshit. Oh yeah, sometimes you have springs that you have to step on a red switch in order to actually make usable, which is really stupid. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. It's pretty overcomplicated. And the most annoying thing is that they're right there. You should be able to use them, but you can't. And I was really confused by that when I first started out the game. This game has the Sonic Advance 2 physics, for the most part, where curling up into a ball isn't really a good idea. You want to just go to the right and run. Running is generally faster than being in ball form, which kind of makes sense. I mean, Sonic is known for running at the speed of sound. He's usually associated with running. It's only the Sonic fans that know that he's more about rolling around at the speed of sound, like in the Cityscape theme. And he's even got his actor image and everything. And to be honest, Sonic feels faster in this game. Especially when he's in the air. Which unfortunately is a bad thing because this game's level design is a lot more focused on platforming. And so with all the platforming that you'll be doing... Oh yeah, in Crusher Blocks. There are a lot of Crusher Blocks in this game. Granted, it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. But the main reason you'll be dying in this game, aside from bottomless pits, is crushing. And it's not... Oh yeah, cheap enemy placement. This game, at least for the first 4 or 5 levels anyways, it has some pretty cheap enemy placement. And sometimes these level design at the start can be pretty sloppy, and it can be kind of confusing trying to figure out how you're supposed to get through the level. It's not Knuckles Chaotix bad, but I'm telling you right now, this game has a really bad start. I like the fact that we don't start out with yet another Green Hill Zone. Like, Route 99 is a very, very unique level for a Sonic game, especially for a first level. It's a city, a highway area. That's usually something you see in 3D Sonic games, but here we have a city with a city background. Unfortunately, this 2D Sonic game decides to have a hub world. I'll talk more about it later because it's not that bad now. But anyways, I like Route 99. Like, I like the way it looks, sort of, although a minor graphical nitpick here is that usually in these classic Sonic games, they always tried to look 3D. When you were running along the ground, it sort of looked 3D. Why is there spikes there? I do like how the Badniks drop rings. Like, I didn't think they would bring that back after Knuckles Chaotix, but they did. And I love that. It makes a lot more sense than powering them with animals, because they're powering them with ring energy instead. But something I really hate about this level is the seesaws. Why did they think that was a good idea? Like, we all loved Hilltop Zone so much, didn't we? That we wanted to see the seesaws in the first level in the game. Something I do like about Advance 3 is that you can finally start grinding on rails from a part of them other than the very beginning. Now you can grind on them from any part, which is exactly how it should have been in the first place. But yeah, thankfully you can skip the seesaws with the right characters and abilities, so it's not that big of a deal. This game has a very bad first impression. It does pick up at some point, but for now at least, its level design feels kind of sloppy. The enemies are just placed wherever. It's not as bad as in Sonic 2, where I spent the entire time frustrated and annoyed and bored. The levels of this game have fast and enjoyable parts, and it has some good platforming. It's just sometimes levels feel thrown together, and they don't feel like they're naturally, logically leading you in the right direction sometimes. And then there's crusher blocks that are always coming from off screen. You don't know they're going to show up until they do, and so it's very easy for them to crush you because of the screen crunch not telling you that they're going to show up in time before you can react to them. It just really sucks getting crushed in this game, but again, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's only really bad in areas with low ceilings where there's a really tight, precise timing for dodging them. And I don't like those things. I don't like that they came back. It's always hard to time pressing the A button to get launched by them exactly right. But this is a fun, fast level, and I appreciate it. You might have noticed that I collected a Chao at some point. Well, that's because in order to get all the Chaos Emeralds, you have to collect every single Chao in the game. We went from 7 collectibles in Sonic Advance 2 to 10 Chao in every level in this game. It doesn't even make sense to me that you use Chao to unlock a special stage at all, because, I mean, I guess it makes sense if they have Chaos Energy in them, because something that Sonic Adventure didn't tell us is that Chaos is actually a mutated Chao. So, Chao have Chaos Energy in them, but it's still very inconsistent with everything that we used to access special stages before this. Usually we just use rings, and I would prefer that. Although, it does it a lot better than Advance 2 in that when you get a Chao, you keep it forever. It's not like you have to beat the entire level without ever dying. Because in Advance 2, if you got all the special stage rings, then it wasn't good enough that you got them all. You had to beat the level without dying. In this game, you can just find a Chao and it's fine. And I like how it's possible to get all the Chao in a level in one run. You don't have to go into it 3 times in a row like with Sky Sanctuary Zone Generations to get everything. Although, sometimes it feels like it's impossible to get all the Chao. It's easier to get all the Chao with a flying type character or a power type character. Yeah, that's the thing. You see that icon on the top left corner of the screen? God, these seesaws suck. They work nothing like the seesaws in the games that came before it. It's like you hit them, and then you have to go to the other side of them, or the ball will come down on you. You just have to constantly be moving around. I'm not going to be pointing out every single time I think that an enemy placement is cheap, like that one, for example. But there are a lot of times that springs will send you straight into enemies and stuff. Or that will happen. It's just that it will get really redundant and repetitive if I point out every single time that an enemy placement was cheap. And again, I don't like how you have to hit switches in order to activate those springs. I don't know why they can't just be always activated, since they look like they can spring you, but for some reason they can't, and that can make you confused. How was I supposed to avoid that? I do like how, just like in Advance 2, you have air tricks and stuff. So that's good. And I don't feel like there's nearly as many spikes as there was in Advance 1. Where the spikes were constantly there, they were way too prevalent. And they would constantly break the pace and flow because you would get stopped by them. This game doesn't really have spikes as a ridiculous problem, which is good. The partner system in this game is actually pretty in-depth, and it sounds overcomplicated when you take it at face value, but really you only have to, when you find that one character combination that is incredibly awesome and broken, you can just stick with that for the rest of the game. Like, you don't really need to know everything about the partner system. Basically, the partner system is sort of like Sonic and Tails mode, but if you hold down the R button, then you'll charge up your tag action. And there's two different tag actions that a partner character has. There's one where he's on the ground, and one where he's above the air. With Tails, he can either bounce you up like a spring, and I love how high he launches you when he does that. Like, that's really cool. And you can also start flying with them, which is how Sonic and Tails mode should have been in the first place, instead of forcing you to use a second controller. Like, you can't even make him fly you in Sonic Advance 1 at all. Unfortunately, it's kind of, like, you have to instantly start mashing the A button when you're in the air, or you won't say hi, which is kind of annoying. You see that icon on the top left corner of the screen? That's basically the speed type icon, because we're playing as Sonic. It's kind of a nitpick, I know, but I prefer seeing a picture of the ring. Oh yeah, this is Emerald, or Gemerald as he's called in this game, because bullshit. It's really not a very good name. Emerald is basically a robot from Sonic Battle, a previous game in the series, where he's called a Gizoid, and he can actually copy the abilities of the people he fights to get stronger. So he's like Kirby, only a badass robot. And apparently Sonic Chronicles, which is a bad RPG that was made later in the series, explained that Emerald was made by the Ancient Echidnas, which is good because it fills in a plot hole. But Sonic Chronicles turned out to be not canon, so never mind. The bosses of this game are definitely the highlight. They have a steep learning curve, because you're gonna screw up a lot when you first learn how to deal with them. But I don't feel like they're incredibly annoying. Like, they're definitely a lot better than Sonic Advance 2's boss fights. Oh god, Sonic Advance 2's boss fights. No, in this game, these boss fights are actually pretty fun. What you have to do is, you gotta stay in one side of the arena, and Eggman will try to fake you out by leaning in the opposite direction before smashing into you. So what you need to do is you gotta jump to the other side of the arena after he tries to fake you out. Like, he'll never lean towards you and then actually crush you. But I like this boss. This is definitely a lot better than Advance 1's boss fight. At least it's not, well, I'm not really sure about that. The thing is, I die a lot to the bosses of this game, but they're really, really unique and special, and they're pretty creative. Although I really hate how difficult it is to jump over the head of the hammer to jump into its dome. Like, you gotta have a lot of momentum and jump at exactly the right time. Because of the game's partner system, a lot of people have complained that your partner can jump into the boss before you do and you get hurt, but I've never actually had that problem. Like, if anything, the partner is a lot more helpful than anything. There's a lot of times when the partner has actually attacked the boss, and that's helped me. Especially when I've been fighting a really difficult boss, and the partner attacked the boss for me. So I don't have any problem with the partner system in this game. If anything, it's the game's saving grace. Like, the game's level design has a lot of problems to it, but the fact that you can break the game with a really awesome partner combination, it does a lot to make up for it. Like, you're gonna see just how broken this partner system could be later on. Suffice to say, Sonic is not the best character to play as in this game. And oh sure, he's fast, but he moves too fast in the air, so platforming is kind of a luck-based thing with him, because he can move too fast in the air so he can overshoot the platforms. It's ultimately a lot better to play with a slower character, especially considering how the platforming is. You're better off playing with a flight type character or a power type, where you can just fly over everything or use the glide and climb to skip stuff. This is the first 2D Sonic game to have any sort of ranking system. You may have noticed at the end of levels and boss fights, you'll see that I get a gold, bronze, or silver medal. That's basically a primitive form of the ranking system. This is a mini game that's basically for racking up lives. I'm not entirely sure how it works. I think you have to push against the glowing switches to get points. You have to push against them and jump. And it can be kind of nerve-wracking having to jump all over the place under a time limit, because it switches from one side of the Gamble Capsule they have to push against to the other. And the minigames get progressively harder as the game goes by, so past Sunset Hill, the minigames basically become impossible to win. I only got 2 lives for that. I don't know why they can't just reward you with lives based on the amount of points that you've gotten, rather than only awarding you with lives if you got a maximum amount of points. And the annoying thing is that the game robs you of all your lives whenever you restart your file. Like, whenever you reload the file, you always have 3 lives. So it's like you're always going to be playing those minigames in the hub world because you need them to rack up lives for difficult levels. That's why I use an Infinite Lives code on my emulator, because, I mean, I have the game legitimately. I have the cartridge, but I felt it was a lot more convenient for me to play the game with save states and stuff. Especially considering how difficult this game can be. See you for the next part.